people that put trusses up, a lot of them don't understand the function of trusses, and it's just a matter of putting them up and nailing them on and not looking at all the rules. Trusses, because they're manufactured, they're quite different than conventional forms of roof framing, and they'll fail pretty easily if you abuse them. Trusses have got to be plumb, they've got to be straight. There is a small tolerance, and you can't load them with any extra loads than what they're designed to do. And because of that, people that don't understand them just simply put them up and don't care. Well, usually, as well as the trades putting them up and not understanding the trusses, often it's the next trades that come in. It might be the owner who gets someone to install an air conditioner, put in a hot water service, and these people come into the roof. They've got less access in a truss roof than they have in a normal convention roof. They want to get something in, so they start cutting into the top cords or into the bottom cords, and sometimes into the webs, and to get all their material in, like ducting, etc. And then they just simply nail them up with a nail and don't worry about it. Again, not understanding the functioning of a truss, which is designed to carry certain loads in a certain manner, and you just cannot pull a truss apart and then try to nail it back again on site, and that's what occurs. Trusses are designed to take loads in a certain manner, and that's the truss is upright and the loads are on top of the truss. Because the trusses have got plates, nail plates that are pressed into them, if you start putting strain on the sides of the trusses and don't keep them flat, or you abuse them when they're travelling, often you'll see trusses on a truck and they're waving at the end of the truck, the end of the trusses, and the bottom plate is really under stress. Those plates will start to move, and as they move out, they lose their connection, and the trusses will fail. So it's very, very important that trusses, when they're delivered on a site, that they are put on a flat site. If you have a sloping site, then you've got to either make a platform on site, or you've got to be prepared to take the trusses and crane them up onto the top of the wall frame straight away, rather than leave them on the ground. AS 4440 is the standard, and you need to observe that. The trusses, those standards give you all of the ways that a truss can be, the way it's got to be installed. Bracing is very important. A lot of carpenters tend to just put the braces where they think they should be, but again, it's all designed, it's all computer designed, and so the standard also talks about how, with all the tolerances that you can use with trusses, overhangs, etc. And if they're not followed, you can get a failure. Well, the failures that I've seen is generally where somebody's cut into a truss. Had one up at Harndorf one day when someone just noticed that his 20-year-old house had a great big sag in the roof and the fascias. And what we found there was they'd replaced a hot water service. They'd cut into the trusses and then just nailed bits of pieces on the side. And so that area of the trusses just sagged. Anyone that needs to make any changes to a truss has got to do it with an engineer, and really with the engineers who design the truss, or an engineer that's proficient in designing trusses, and they can look at the trusses and tell you what you can do. And if you need to cut into one, well then they'll give you a method of repairing that truss, but it should only be done by an engineer who'll look at the design. Second-hand trusses, if they've been used and they've been taken off a roof, or if they've been lying around, even covered, one should be very cautious about using them. And always go back to the engineer or an engineer to have a look at them. They'll have a look at the timber. The structure might be, some of the timbers might be rotten if they've been around for a while. They may have been damaged if they're old trusses that have come up on a roof. And it's got to be remembered that they're not designed, that each truss is designed specifically. You might have a truss on that's got a corrugated iron roof on it, and you're using it for a tiled roof. It will fail immediately because it's not designed to take that. So My advice would be anyone who contemplated using second-hand trusses is to get an engineer to have a look at them and make sure that they'll work or they're fit for purpose. There's two elements of that. If they're actually working for a builder at the time and there's supervisors on the site, they should always ask the supervisor or the builder whether they can load the hot water service or the air conditioner onto the truss. And that includes putting the truss on top of the roof covering, putting the hot water service on top of the roof covering or air conditioner, or hanging them from, as they do, they get threaded rods and they hang them from the top cords or the webs. Before you do that, they need to check with the supervisor and find out whether the trusses have actually been designed to do that, and the supervisor needs to check all of the calculations to make sure that has been done. A lot of times, of course, these things are put in by the owners, and the owners don't understand that. So there's a responsibility for the tradesman who's putting in the air conditioner again to find out whether those trusses will take the loads. And they need to find out whose truss it is. Most trusses have got brands on them, stamped on them. They can contact that truss manufacturer, go to them, work out what the loadings are, and get the truss manufacturer in writing, give them approval to either do what they want to do or give them a method of how they should do it without the trusses being affected. Around about the 1st of July this year, there is going to be a requirement where you have trusses that adjacent to the manhole, there needs to be a notice there, a legible notice that informs people who are going into the manhole that the trusses can't, if there's roof trusses there of course, that the roof trusses can't be cut, can't be altered in any way without the express permission of the manufacturer of the trusses and the engineers. It should be remembered also that it's an offence to change a structural component of a building without council approval, and that's in the Development Act, Section 45. Once you're cutting into a truss, you're changing the structural component of the truss, and you need to get approval from council to do that.